I did what I wanted to do, and here it is. Let's
and I'll
see
show
what we
you when
got
we
here. Start this over
and I'll show
for
you when
us.
So here in Saqqara, we have a hydrocarbon processing facility. The main takeaway for the function of the Egyptian pyramids is that they were designed to work in conjunction with the forces of nature, not only in the power source from telluric currents and lightning, but also utilizing the abundant natural resources here in Egypt, for example, hydrocarbon deposits, which are prevalent across Egypt as the source of the raw materials for the chemical manufacturing operations. And I'll show you when we go inside the bent pyramid that it's literally built on top of a bedrock deposit of methane, the step pyramid.
Yeah.
And on the Giza plateau, we were talking about the direct source of hydrogen sulfide gas that comes from the cave system below Giza.
Right.
So the Great Pyramid was utilizing that hydrogen sulfide gas to create sulfuric acid. Here in
I can hear I'm talking in the background.
Saqqara, the step pyramid was extracting bedrock deposits of methane that were later converted into chemicals like methanol within the pyramid of Winis. And then we'll go to the Serapeum, which my hypothesis for the function of the Serapeum is for the production of hydrogen. So again, the cinematic entrance into the subterranean structure. This is known as the Southern Tomb. It's a huge, vertical, rectangular, bedrock excavated chamber that emulates what we'll see inside of the step pyramid. But the unique thing about this is what you'll see down at the bottom of this shaft system. It's absolutely
I'm
crazy.
running it at 1080p. I'm not sure if it is or not. Okay, it is. Never mind. I still want to run it in the highest. Yeah.
And so obviously the staircase that we're currently walking on is not an original part of the structure.
Obviously.
شكرا صاحبي.
Wow. That is insane.
All of this over here is also restoration.
That is so ginormous.
And you can take a look at this thing from the top, and then we'll go down in there and look at it from below. It's made of multiple slabs of red granite. The one inside the step pyramid is 32 pieces of red granite, with the plug being the 33rd piece. And you'll notice here that this one also has a plug in the top of the container. And the original archaeological excavations showed that this container was lined with copper.
Whoa.
So the entire inside of this thing was like a copper vessel with a plug in the top of it. All right, so this is the best vantage point where you can see that the plug is two pieces. So it goes in like a feather wedge like this. And you can also see that there's a rim. It's like a wine bottle cork.
Yeah.
You know, that has a rim around it.
Yes, it's like it's been corked.
So it's a plug, a cork.
It's a plug.
Exactly. So again, what is the function of this mechanism other than for gas containment? Right? So you have a plugged, pressurized container that was lined on the inside with copper. And that plug could be released. Let's say that this whole thing was filled with water. Your gas is going to percolate up to whatever was originally at the top of this system, because the gas is going to rise through the water. And you can also use water percolation, which is just gas bubbles moving through water, to clean chemicals. So for example, for removing impurities from methane gas, like sulfides, all you have to do is bubble it through water, which is a purification mechanism for hydrocarbon extraction.
Right.
Huge pieces of red granite. I don't know the exact
Someone said like a bomb.
count on this one, but I do know the one inside of the step pyramid is 32 pieces, and the plug is the 33rd piece.
Are these like bricked in sections?
So all restoration, and this was also an area that was repurposed during the Ptolemaic period. So there's Greek and Roman burials and niches and all sorts of other stuff. We'll see the same thing when we go in the Serapeum, that's also been repurposed during the Ptolemaic period. And this door here leads into yet another subterranean tunnel and passage chamber system.
It just gets deeper and deeper, baby.
You have to get special permission to go into the subterranean levels of both the step pyramid and the southern tomb. But huge pieces of red granite.
Ooh. Wow.
So again, the reason that they utilized pieces of granite instead of a whole single piece. So we'll see in the Serapeum that clearly they had the capability of carving single pieces of granite into containers. Here, it was for the installation of the copper metal vessel on the inside that was cased in red granite to contain the pressure. This whole thing is a massive pressure containment system for storage of pressurized gas. And originally, this structure was enclosed. It wasn't open
Right.
on the top.
This is such an interesting place. I've never seen footage like this, I gotta say.
This passage that we're utilizing to access the main chamber is not an original part of the structure. It was later excavated by the Persians, which was the first civilization to break into the inner chamber of the step pyramid.
Wow. I really hope this music doesn't get me copyright.
And you'll notice here, we start to have some transition. So you remember the color of the bedrock in the southern tomb?
Yep.
Was yellow. Look at the color of this.
Right, dark. Much darker.
YouTube, I swear it's not me using the music. I have no idea why he's doing this to me.
Black stuff, this is soot. So they used to have candles here.
Right, okay, yeah.
Or something, and you can see
yeah.
the soot
Yeah.
that's rising up out. So this is soot. The bedrock itself is permeated. So this, in terms of geological fossil fuel investigation or looking for hydrocarbon deposits, this is exactly what the cap of a deep bedrock methane natural gas deposit looks like. And this black material is a result of the ancient decayed organic matter that is embedded in the limestone bedrock that causes the formation of these natural gas deposits deep within the earth. So this facility was utilized for the extraction of those bedrock methane deposits. Yeah, so 32 pieces of red granite, the central plug being the 33rd piece of the component. And a couple interesting things to note from an archaeological perspective. You see that huge crack in the bedrock there?
Yeah.
The whole structure is gradually, slowly but surely collapsing.
Ooh, we better dang fix it then. Well, it looks like this is going to be pretty freaking sweet. I gotta say. This footage is at least never before seen to me. This is legit. These guys are really going at it. I'm just a belchy boy tonight, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, 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 wow. I'm excited to see that. Yes, that's my Canva. I'm messing around with some stuff. Dr. Gary Nolan, alright. He usually has some good stuff. It's got talked about.
Both a question, and you guys should ask each other questions about this too, or follow up with each other. But I want to know, I mean, what do you say to colleagues in academia and the sciences who find your pursuit of data pointing to the existence of UAP or UAP technologies to be puzzling, unjustified, even unscientific? What are you saying to those colleagues?
Give it time. I mean, there's stigma. There are going to be people who try to discourage you from that. Just give them time. Everyone need to some time to accept the ideas, to think about these possibilities, and to see how this field becomes real slowly, step by step. I don't think one can push anyone to believe you or to think like you. Also, one just needs to
Yeah,
let the
my
natural steps
first
happen.
question back to them is how much time do you have? And second, how much time have you spent actually looking at it rather than parroting somebody else's conclusion? And what you very quickly find when challenging them that way, that they admit that they know almost nothing. And then I say, well, have you read the book, for instance, UAP or UFOs in Government by Robert Powell and Swords? Have you read anything in this field? Do you know what Project Blue Book is and was, and what the pros and cons of it are? And, in basically 2 minutes, you can show just how ignorant they are of the matter. And then I follow up with, well, I've spent time and read all of those books cover to cover, as well as about 200 more. So it's kind of like you coming to me and telling me cancer is not real. And then I basically take you into a pathology lab and show you thousands and thousands of preserved blocks of human tissue representing cancer. And that pretty much, in very short order, shows who's doing science and who's not. So we all need, for those of us who are in positions like B and I, to have at the ready those kinds of immediate challenges back because they can always ask a question that you can't answer, or you'll say, well, where's the evidence? Well, there's lots of evidence. Evidence isn't, evidence is contextualized data. There's enormous amounts of data. It's just whether or not it meets the reproducibility test. For me, reproducibility is materials or medical damage. For B, reproducibility is, do I see the same thing on a photographic plate on day 1 versus day 2 and or from multiple observatories?
Yeah.
And so that's reproducible science that, again, once you've stepped into that realm, there is no argument to be had. The data is indisputable. What it means is interpretable. And as long as you stay on the comfortable side of that line for the audience, you can keep them with you. I mean, I might have my own personal beliefs that's on the other side of that line, but my personal beliefs are different than my scientific conclusions. And getting that across to people often takes a bit of a longer conversation, but you can have that first conversation where you basically get people to admit that they know nothing about the matter that they're attempting to opine upon. And therefore, they might as well just go to a Facebook forum and spew their guts there and their opinions, because it would have as much value. Sorry,
Beatrice, any further thoughts about that?
Well, I agree with Gary. It's like my scientific conclusion from this work we've been doing now is that we see something that shouldn't be there in these images from the early 1950s, something that happens to look like something very flat and very reflective and in high orbits, probably. And that's my scientific point of view. And if you ask me about my personal, I'm going to say I think it's artificial and it's not ours.
Right.
So,
I mean, look at what Avi is going through right now with the more recent meteor coming through our solar system, where it appears to have an internal
excuse me,
light source. And there's lots of natural reasons why it could have that, which he goes through. But because one or two lines of his opinion say that, well, it could be a nuclear reactor or an artificial energy source, that's all anybody focuses on. And so therefore dismisses all of the other more prosaic answers that he's even very comfortable with. And so, I think sometimes holding back the speculation of what it might be, even if the question is on the table and you believe that it's true, is better to get it into the public realm first as an accepted paper and then speculate after it's been published.
That's true. I'm very bad with holding back anything, I think.
Yeah.
So, but yes, it's true. It could be easier sometimes because people want to poke holes in arguments. They don't want to read what you say. They don't want to read what you write. They will not read when you listen a mundane explanation. They will go and try to attack the more interesting explanation. So,
yeah.
You guys have both shown, I think, immense courage in engaging in dialogue and debate with your colleagues and doing research really at the edge or beyond the edge. And you've also both shown, and I really believe this is true, remarkable imagination in how you've approached the questions that interest you. So it may not seem this way even to yourselves, but I think there are younger generations of people going into the sciences and starting out in science right now who are probably looking to both of you as possible models or even inspirations for their work. So what would you say to them I'm really asking, for like, this is a fundamental question. What would you say to both of them that science is, or what would both of you say science is? What Beatrice is science?
For me, it's data-driven exploration. That's what science is to me. But of course, if you're a theoretician, you think differently. So, but this is at least my personal point of view of it. It's you just want to explore the unknown the unknown domains that you can't get answers to in any books. When the books don't give you the answers, then you have to go and check it yourself somehow.
Well.
Yeah, I think where hard
Gotta say,
science
it's hard to get a word in edgewise because these guys are just spitting facts.
and theorists overlap is that, the hard scientist will collect the data often with a preset understanding of what they think the answer might be. And the theorist is there to either explain the data as it's collected or explain the outlier. And where, astrophysics, and where I think, for instance, Avi has a lot of problems with astrophysicists, is they come up with magical theorems that are inherently untestable. And so, in retrospect, looking at my path or through science, it's always been either the unmet need that drives for me the creation of an instrument that lets me collect more data, until I get to the point where the data doesn't make sense. And then it's that data off the curve which then redirects my interest. And I think this is where B is at right now. This data off the curve is redirecting her interests into understanding what it might mean.
Yeah, that's how my whole career path has been, that you find these weird things you don't understand and you try to form a hypothesis, how to test it, and it just goes on like that.
So you're actually a theorist, B. I know that's a dirty word amongst material scientists, but
I know I am sitting at the Nordic Institute for Theoretical Physics.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, good.
Well then, put him in his place, B. What else we got here? I'm gonna start recording. What else we got going on? I was just doing it live and now I'm recording, so. Let's see, what's been recently uploaded? Oh, I'm already on there. Alright, let's look at podcasts then. Hey, this was on earlier today. Peas and Pete's. Come on now.
G'day and welcome to a special
Guessing
edition of
because I'm
Reality
recording
Check.
it
I'm
live,
your
it's kinda
host,
slow.
Ross Coulthard.
Whatever.
A bit gravelly today because flying back from South America yet again, I've caught a lurgy on the plane. So forgive me if my voice sounds like I've been gargling marbles. I've got a very interesting story for you today. We know that Lou Elizondo wrote a memo to President Trump in January. That's actually been reported before. But what we've never known before is what's in that memo and what followed the writing of it. I've obtained from sources within the Disclosure Foundation a copy of the memo that Lou Elizondo wrote to President Trump in early January this year, shortly after his election in his second administration. It's a fascinating document and it's entitled Prioritizing Emerging All-Domain Technologies. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what I would like to highlight is, firstly, Lou's using a new term, Emerging All-Domain Technologies, EADT. This is
Why are they always putting acronyms and changing the names of stuff, man.
Very clever document because it basically doesn't talk about aliens. It doesn't talk about anomalous phenomena. Basically, it talks about emerging all-domain technologies. It's a brief written for an incoming president to explain why the phenomenon should be a priority.
Oh, all right. Well, wow, something good.
It says EADT include unmanned aerial systems, UAS, unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, and certain other advanced systems operating across the air, space, and sea domains that are capable of intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and kinetic strikes. What's interesting about this document is that Lou has recommended that there be a White House senior advisor, or czar, a UFO czar, a UAP czar, within the National Security
What's
Council.
up with the United States
to,
using
one,
Russian terminology?
coordinate the US
They
government's
call them the border czar
response,
too.
formulate policy, and conduct domestic and international outreach. Now, this was very much written for Trump's transition team, and it makes the point that EADT, as he calls them, are a paradigm shift. They combine advanced and in some cases beyond next generation capabilities in stealth, loiter, maneuverability, and speed. These technologies not only herald a revolution in military and intelligence capabilities, Lou says, but they also enable rogue actors to wreak untold havoc. Now, it's interesting because, of course, this is all written at a time when the drone flap was on at the end of 2024, early 2025.
Who all remembers that? That was insane. I covered that on TikTok. We all know what happened to the people that covered that on TikTok. They got their stuff taken down. They had to call it door bags. What the hell?
And of course, that drone flap is still on. It's still happening. So it's a prescient document because it's warning the president that drones are going to be an issue. It also makes the point that the government still has no remedy to unmanned aerial systems, despite the intelligence community's overhaul to prevent such a catastrophe from happening. As Lou says, the American people are livid over the chaos and the cover-ups. So it also makes the point with UAP, while the US stigmatizes even discussing UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, Americans' enemies are racing to unlock their technology and gain a decisive edge. Consequently, UAP can no longer be distinguished entirely from UAS and other EADT, hobbling our domain awareness and response. It says that although Congress created its Pentagon UFO Office, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, within
What a freaking mouthful that was.
the DoD to analyze UAPs, the office remains hopelessly mired in bureaucracy, overly siloed, and unable to achieve its mission. The Biden administration's doubling down on the decades-long obfuscation of the UAP matter has similarly eroded the public's trust. It also makes the point that there is a steep price in failure. Firstly, unfocused research and development, and secondly, uncompetitive technological progress compared to Russia and China due to over-compartmentalization of classified projects, and a chaotic response to EADT incursions. A reactive or non-existent US EADT diplomacy, industrial-based doctrine, and force posture, and a citizenry rightly suspicious of the deep state. Okay, I don't want to take too long on this because I want to bring Lou on now to
Well, what an interesting 5.5 minutes that's been. And he's about to bring on Lou. Oh, baby, let's get it going.
discuss it. He's agreed to come on and discuss this memo. But I want to also make the point that in the recommendations, it suggested, among other things, that at the president's direction, he guide a national intelligence estimate on EADT, including UAP. It also suggests that he access all UAP related classified information, and that the President be advised on the declassification of UAP-related records and spearhead responsible UAP transparency. Also suggests he enforce the 25-year mandatory declassification of all UAP information other than as exempted by the President, case by case. One of the other recommendations I agree with is that it recommends accelerating research in advanced propulsion and technologies by engaging the academic and scientific communities. It finishes by saying many in Congress, as well as former colleagues of Lou's in the DoD, US military, and IC, believe that your administration represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for major progress on emerging all-domain technologies, and we stand ready to work with you. America can handle the truth, and America deserves the truth. Okay, so that's quite a strong memo, prioritizing
I love the memo. Absolutely bloody love it.
emerging all-domain technologies. We'll obviously put this up online, but I'm interested to get Lou Elizondo's response. I approached him last week when I got back from Peru. Of course, I had a voice back then. Lou, welcome to Reality Check. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always my privilege. Thank you, Ross, for having me. And I hope you feel better from maybe you picked something up on your last travels, but
He caught a loogie, he said.
take care of that. Take care of that voice.
I will do, sir. I will do, sir. Now, this is a very important memo. The thing that leaps out at me about it, though, is what has the president done about it? What has been the response, if any? Do we know if President Trump received this memo directly?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. There are no guarantees in life, right, except for death and taxes. So I'm certainly not going to speak on behalf of the President of the United States. It is true in your assertion that the memo was sent. It was sent on behalf of myself. And whether or not the President has had time to read it or his staff, that's a question you'd have to ask him. I certainly wouldn't want to be presumptuous and try to answer for the boss in any way. My hope and desire is that someone in his administration in a position of authority had a chance to review it. I think it's also important too that it's basically just a general recommendation to find somebody out there that the president and the National Security Council can basically tag to be the point of contact for this issue. We are now seeing, Ross, a significant issue that drones are playing on the battlefield. In fact, there was a statistic recently released that over in the Ukraine, for the first time in warfare history, that there have been more casualties caused by drones than infantry and artillery combined. So
Wow.
think about that for a moment, right? We are now at a tipping point where the pervasiveness of certain technologies can be in the hands of just about anybody. And if you get on the internet, even this morning, I saw an article where drones were being used in prisons to distract guards and to attack and kill other individuals. So the technology is here, and the issues are now
Ever watched the movie The Terminator?
in front of us. And that was one of the things that really served as the impetus for me to write this memo in the first place.
Now, what's interesting, Lou, about this memo is that it's combining drones, human drones, and UAPs. Why did you do that? Why did you put in the same memo?
Sure. Well, first of all, there's a lot of commonalities between the two, right? We don't know something. Everything is unidentified until it becomes identified. And that's true whether it's a Chinese spy balloon or it is a drone, as we saw in the recent New Jersey flap last year, or it is a UAP. And so you can think of this emerging all-domain technology as a large umbrella. And under that umbrella, there are these smaller little umbrellas that fit. And UAP are one of them, drones are another. And at the end of the day, we have to do a better job of understanding what is in our skies. Otherwise, what happens is what you have this last year where we have to shut down airports, restricted airspace, And we're having to move some of our very sensitive military equities.
And if I'm not mistaken, they were looking for nuclear waste and signs of nuclear activity.
To another location, simply because we do not have control and awareness of what's in our skies.
Can I ask you, sir, do you think the president was correctly advised when, later in January, after your memo was sent to the president, Caroline Levitt, the president's spokeswoman, put out a statement saying the drones over New Jersey were FAA authorized drones? That's an extraordinary explanation that, frankly, doesn't wash with me. Does it wash with you? There is a drones mystery still.
Well, we already know that's not entirely accurate. But let me preface by saying I don't think this was the fault of Miss Carolyn Levitt. I think she was simply reporting what she was told, and at the time it probably seemed factual. But as we now know, that Senator Cory Booker himself from New Jersey had spoken to the FAA directly, and they told him absolutely not, that these were not all approved and authorized by the FAA. So herein lies the problem. We have this gigantic bureaucracy called the US government with three separate branches. And within those three separate branches, countless amounts of agencies and organizations. And they don't always talk to each other in an efficient manner. And so you get this, if you will, this cross wires where information appears to be contradictory and is being provided to the public through the media, but it hasn't been fully vetted. And so, again, I want to just make this clear. I don't think this is necessarily the fault of the administration. I think the administration is simply reporting what it was told at the time it was being told. But there is a larger issue here, and that is there's an overall dysfunction within the bureaucracy that does not allow, this is part of the problem, the president to get the information he needs or she needs when she needs it or when he needs it, with the fidelity that is required to make a good decision. You cannot make an informed decision without having all the facts. And the bottom line here is the administration was not and still is not receiving all the facts. And so by creating a position, a single, if you will, belly button for the president to reach out to and not get a response or reply in a week or 4 or 5 days, but within 5 minutes. Hey, what's going on? We're picking something up on radar. Get a hold of NORAD, get a hold of the FAA. Let's find out what these things are. Do they pose a threat? What is their trajectory? What is their source of origination? So we can get a better handle of what's in our skies. Let's not forget that it was during 9/11 that we suffered a catastrophic consequence of dysfunction within our government's bureaucracy. You had pockets of information residing within the CIA and the FBI and even the Department of Defense, and that information was not being shared with the relevant authorities. So we had an incomplete picture of our what we call air domain awareness, or what's in our skies. And the result of that, I don't need to rehash here, but the results of that were quite obvious. And yet here we are now, 20 some years later, and we still don't know what's in our skies. We still haven't figured out how to crack the code in having this comprehensive picture. And so by creating an individual that sits at the very top that can advise the president, we can actually pin the tail on the donkey. Look, we have a drug czar for this country. We have a terrorism czar for this country.
I was literally just mentioning that. That's hilarious.
All these positions that are put in place simply to kind of cut through the red tape of the bureaucracy and inform the president and inform the administration of emerging threats as they're happening. And for some reason, we still can't seem to do it quite right. Now, there was an effort by the Director of National Intelligence. They were called National Intelligence Managers, NIMS, and there was for a while one called NIM Aviation. That was their job to look at our skies and be able to provide information as it was occurring to administration officials. I don't know whatever happened to that position. From my understanding, I don't even know if it's still around. It could be, but I think we need a much more comprehensive, a much more robust effort to try to really figure out once and for all what's in our skies.
Now, we know that your memo went to senior people in the Trump administration. We don't know whether Donald Trump has actually actioned it or done anything with it or even read it. But what worries me is the conspicuous lack of action on any of the issues that you raise in that memo. I don't see any action on drones, and I don't see any action from this administration on UAPs. Are you getting any indications from anyone within the administration to suggest that they are taking the UAP issue seriously?
Yes, I am. And the drone issue. In fact, there's pockets within the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and pockets within the Director of National Intelligence that are taking this topic seriously. I think their approach is very measured. I think they're doing their due diligence. They're asking the right questions. They're going about this the right way. Now the question is, do they have enough people? Well, that I can't tell you. I don't know, and I think only time will tell. But I do see that there are pockets of expertise and excellence that is being applied to this topic. I think what some people may confuse is the lack of transparency or necessarily discussion openly about what they're doing. And so I think that creates some frustration internally with some people. But I'm very confident and very relieved that at least certain individuals whom I know are working on this topic are indeed taking it very seriously, and basically pulling the thread to see where it leads. Now, at the end of the day, time will tell what those results will be. But no, I'm very grateful and heartened to see some of the efforts that I see behind closed doors. I'm not going to say right now who specifically is involved. I think we need to give these individuals latitude and ability to maneuver.
Man, he talks a lot.
It is a tough problem. It is a tough problem. We haven't solved it yet, and we're still trying to figure it out. And it's not going to be solved overnight. I do think one of the ways to help find resolution to this problem sooner rather than later is to establish a primary individual that is responsible for this. This is what they get paid to do, right? So if they drop the ball, now it's on their hands, on their shoulders. I also think what you mentioned earlier about establishing imagine a strategy every year that comes out. And this strategy basically says, here are the holes that we see in our ability to understand what's in our skies. And then you have on the heels of that, this National Intelligence Estimate, an NIE. We've done it before for other hard targets. An NIE is basically just a document that says, hey, look, here are the problems we're dealing with topic X or topic Y. Here are some of the challenges. Here are some of the gaps that we see. Here's some of the resolution we have found. And then right on the heels of a national intelligence estimate, you develop a national level strategy that's good for 1 year, that helps the intelligence community, helps the defense community, helps the U.S. government writ large to try to focus on those gaps. How do we plug those holes so we have a better understanding of what exactly is going on in our skies?
Okay, so we do know that in November it was reported by the Pentagon that there'd been a meeting of 180
All right. At 1835, that's enough of that for now. My eyes were hard to keep open. I could not keep my opens up. I can't even talk, buddy. New to me. Are you still there when you're unconscious? Kind of piqued my interest a little bit, but I don't know, man. Oh, what's he got going on? 9 hours ago.
First time in history of the phenomenon that we have first-hand eyewitness testimony of direct communication with a captured alien in custody.
This is James Fox, and he is the UFO documentarian. This is the man behind some of the most groundbreaking UFO films ever made, and he is here to pull back the curtain on cases that shake even seasoned investigators. If you are a UFO skeptic, I'm telling you, this is the episode for you. From 1996, the Virginia incident, when the entire town saw a craft crash and military officials were literally talking to each other like, yo, there might be aliens out here, to never before heard audio from witnesses, surgeons, and insiders who claimed that they actually handled the beings themselves.
If I got my hands on the definitive piece of footage, I'd have something to worry about. No question.
When you say the definitive piece of footage,
Footage of a captured alien?
and that exists.
Oh, no question.
And you've spoken to people that have seen it.
Yes, multiple people.
We will explore James's very own UFO encounter, his method for separating truth from noise, and why high-level figures from Jimmy Carter to President
with
Gerald
stuff on a
Ford
shirt.
privately admitted he might be onto something. We're talking about Spielberg cameos, astronauts hinting at hidden contact, Bob Lazar's lingering questions, nuclear-era sightings, and what disclosure might actually look like and when it might happen. James Fox has spent decades getting the stories that nobody else can. He's probably talked to more UFO experiencers than anyone on Earth, and today he's sharing all of them with us. So, sit back, relax, and welcome to camp.
I'm already sitting back and I'm already relaxing. I am relaxing. Definitely don't
James
think
Fox,
I'll be
how are you?
watching all
Good.
3
Thanks
hours.
for having me
of
on.
this.
Thank you so much for joining me in my tent.
I like it.
Yeah, this is
It's a warm tent.
thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
it is.
Deep in
As
the
far as tents go.
yeah, in the Adirondacks. We're far, far away from civilization. Not in Brooklyn at all. No. We are far.
This is literally going to be intense.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Like I said, I might not be watching this for very
I've
long.
been tracking you for a while, and I've spoken to many people that have spoken about you. And as I said before, they're all everyone speaks very highly of you. And your work, I think, has
That's
been.
because I owe them a lot of money.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. Give it enough time.
Wait till they get paid.
Yeah. And then the tune will change.
General, please, what's going on? Like, why don't you want to talk about this case? Like, did it happen? He's getting his affairs together because he's got a driver waiting for him. Excuse me. And he's like, gets his briefcase and he's getting his stuff together and he's clearly like getting prepared to leave. And we're following him back. And I often describe it as like I was almost licking the dirt off his boots. Like I was begging him just for something. I said, I swear on my life, there are no cameras rolling. There's no audio rolling. This is between the three of us, me, Marco, and you. Tell me, please, about Virginia, please. He gets in the car, sits down, the engine's running, doors open. Marco and I are standing right there. And he looks up at us and he goes, it happened. Click. Marco and I looked at each other like, like to have that level of confirmation. And why would he make that up?
Yeah.
So that doesn't go in a movie, right? Because that's irrelevant. Anyone would say, well, it's third party. Of course. But for me and for Marco, that was like, okay, let's rock.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You know?
You got military confirmation. You got nuclear physicists that are like,
Yeah, they're like, look into it.
Close friends being like,
Yes.
check it out.
Yes.
So all of this is culminating to
Yes.
you being like, okay.
Yeah, I'm really starting to go, shit.
And you're telling this general, you're like, I'll never tell anyone. I'm not going to go on a podcast
He
to share
died.
this information. Okay.
He died. He died. So
And
that's
so
why,
now we
that's why
can
I share it. Yeah. Yeah, he died. Bless his heart.
Right.
Yeah.
And his demeanor during this interview was pretty.
Oh, he's like, UFOs are real. Like, this event happened, and this event happened, and da-da-da, and the reason why we can't see
What in the what? Wasn't expecting to see this today.
today is because, you can't have objects of unknown origin whizzing around with impunity.
Right.
And for us to come forward and acknowledge that, it's going to scare the shit out of people.
Right.
Like, and to be able to say, like, yeah, they're here, but we don't know origins and intent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they fly rings around our fastest jets. Because no governing body is going to want to report that to the citizens. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You guys pay us to protect you. And we can't, shall they turn to be hostile? We have no visible means of defense against them. You think we're going to disclose that nature of information? Guess what he said to me? He goes, hell no. No, we don't do that.
Interesting.
Why would you do that? How are we going to benefit by doing that?
Right.
Because you reveal what you know, and in doing so, you have to reveal all things that you don't know.
Yeah, you basically just kind of admit, like, hey, we are not able to.
We're not in control.
We're not in control. Yeah, and that's a big issue for
That's
a government.
a very big issue.
Yeah, you have rebellion, and
Yeah.
that's just in terms of statecraft, that is a terrible admission.
And it makes perfectly good sense, because I remember one time I used to always say, and I still do in some respects, because I believe it, but I understand a little more. I hate to say it, but there are certain national security issues regarding this topic that does merit some levels of secrecy.
Mm-hmm.
And I give you examples of that. But I had this general I was interviewing one time, and I was like, God, we're really unifying, and the world bring people together, and there's this outside, and he's just like chuckling to himself, like, you're so naive, kid, like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let me break it down for you. And then he like kind of explained it
Sometimes being naive is good.
to me, and I was like, shit, I never looked at it that way before.
Yeah, I can kind of understand both sides in a way.
Yeah,
right?
and I
In
don't
this
agree
case,
with
no.
it, but I understand.
Right.
it. And especially if you start talking about crash retrievals. Just imagine, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, just imagine for a moment it is true that we have this technology. Well, anyone will tell you the technology observed in the sky from these things exhibits something that's like so far beyond anything that we have or have had or going to have. Like they can hover, they can accelerate out of sight in the blink of an eye, right angle turns at high speed. Like they go through the water, they go, no wings, no air disturbance, no visible How do these things fly?
Yeah.
Could you put a bomb on that? If you could harness that technology, well, that's how they think, militarize this technology. And if we have it, we want to make sure we figure it out before the Chinese or the Russians.
Right.
Right.
I can
Excuse me,
understand the national security concern, right? Like War of the Worlds, this radio
Oh,
broadcast that went off in like the 50s, I think.
30s, 38
Oh,
or
it was even
39,
earlier.
yeah.
So this is basically
Orson Welles, hella funny.
yeah, and it's,
People were jumping out of their windows.
this is a great
Yeah,
example, right?
yeah.
You're doing this, what is it, like a radio soap opera kind of thing, and it's a fictionalized alien invasion, but they only disclosed that it was fictional at the very beginning, so people are tuning
Yeah,
in.
and they missed it.
5 minutes in,
Yes.
and it's like, okay, we have our ground reporter, and he's witnessing these lights in the sky, and this craft is landing in
Yeah.
Times Square, and like it's
Yeah.
this whole thing, and people are in panic, rightly
yeah,
so.
Totally.
And
Oh yeah, brilliantly done. I mean, it was really, really compelling.
right,
Like if you listen to it now, like a lot of thought went into that.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
I mean, it sounded real.
and the
Like,
reaction was equally as real. And I could understand that if this stuff is
Totally.
just disclosed to a population, people would be really freaked out. So I understand this push for disclosure, but like any type of, classified, government document, I don't know from a state level, you have to think like, does the public benefit from knowing all of this, right? Like the JFK files or
Yeah.
the Epstein files or whatever else
Yeah.
it is. It's like, look, every empire does things that are, morally questionable. Do you guys really want to know everything? Do you really want to know what kind of backdoor deal we're doing with some dictator in order to get oil rights or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that? It's like, basically they're saying it's better if you don't know. And of course, I understand the disagreement on this, but
yeah. Jacques Vallée said that something really interesting to me years ago, because I was like, because I'm really curious by nature. I'm just a curious person. I want to get to the bottom of things, right? Tenacious. I have a lot of deficiencies, but curiosity is not one of them. I just really want to know. And I was like, Jacques, like, why the secrecy? Like, And he goes, James, think of it this way. Think about it like it's more of a question, less of a question of what we know, is more of a question of what we don't know.
Mm.
And it really like struck a chord with me. It's like, oh, we can admit what we know, but that's going to open up all these other. Could you imagine, like, if they stood up and said what they know,
right.
and then all of a sudden there's going to be 100 million questions flooding in from around the world because, the American government, sure, America what represents a very small percentage of the world population, but the implications are global.
Yeah.
So it's like it affects every religion, ontological shock, like to the max.
Right.
And then America is going to start making statements that we have this stuff, it's real, we're not alone. Well, you better cough up some evidence, right? So what are they going to do? Are they going to give
True
us the
that.
technology? Are they going to show us the bodies? How are they going to do it? Are they going to say, well, here, we're
Show
going to give
us the
you
bodies.
some photographs of some recovered craft? And then they're going to say, well, that's AI. We don't believe that. We need
Right.
to see it. And then it's like implications are global. So do we bring a whole panel of international scientists to come examine it in a lab and confirm, yeah, I saw it and it's real and Americans do have it? Or do they bring out a body? How do they do it? And how do they do it without having to cough up the goods?
Right.
Because they're not going to share that technology with China or Russia.
Of course.
That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to military folks, intel folks. They're like, James, it's never going to happen. We might confess that we're not alone, but then how do they prove that without coughing up the goods? It's a really complicated situation. It's way more complex than I ever imagined. You can't just get the president of the United States, which half the country hates, right? No matter who it is. And so he's going to get up and say, hey, my fellow Americans, it has been brought to my attention that, we're not alone. Whatever,
Yeah.
right? However he says it. All right, well, where's the proof?
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because
All right, we can take a break, and I'll also take a break from watching the podcast, and let's go to another video.
Um,
Um, what's on the news? What do we got on the news today? Nothing I really care to hear about, it seems. All right, let's look at thrillers. You guys ever watch Nuke's Top 5? Stuff is pretty freaky. Go back to New to Me. I don't know. Area 52. What does he have going on? Uh, some of these, like, are from years ago, and I just don't know how to get rid of them. I've tried unsubscribing, but they just stay there. Yeah, so this is what I was watching earlier. Start from the beginning.
There's a section here. It says it is from other research. The intersection of NHI encounters and mystical symbols or sigils forms a unique cultural tapestry where UFOs are not just unexplained flying objects, but are perceived as sacred or occult symbols or sigils invoking communication with otherworldly realms. The term sigil generally refers to symbols considered to have magical powers. Yes, we know that. In the context of UFOs, though, enthusiasts and researchers have begun to.
By the way, I watched this about 14 minutes in, and this is some of the most interesting stuff I've heard. I recommend watching this.
To explore how these aerial phenomena might represent or communicate unknown energies and potential messages. This idea of presenting in various works linking the areas of UFOs to ritualistic and spiritual events, and such practices are becoming more widely used. There you have it, and I think some of the younger generation are getting into it. Be honest with you, I think they're steered. I think they're even manipulated in a certain sense to have an interest in it, and I don't think it's good. Jacques Vallée stated, because he had a new book out recently. I think it's his 7th journal or something like that. But he has stated UFOs are essentially a response from the unknown, with symbols and sigils that inhabit our consciousness as both a challenge and an enigma. But he's recognizing it. Yep. That is interesting. Occult practitioners, some practitioners see UFOs as modern day archetypes or sigils emerging from collective consciousness. These sightings challenge logical perceptions, serving as a conduit for expanded introspective and spiritual transformation. Even if you look at synchronicity, just as Carl Jung did, he explored the concepts of synchronicity. UFOs can serve as synchronistic beacons that defy logical explanation and require interpreting the symbols enfolded within their experiences, as Jung described. It is an intersecting moment of meaning between inner and outer experience. That's how he put it, defining the two as two different realities. Then he mentioned about magical thinking. Aligning UFOs with sigils introduces the idea that witnessing an unexplained aerial phenomena might be unintentional
Dang, that's a loud
invocation.
truck.
A magical call to comprehend the realm that humans do not yet understand. Interesting. And you put that into the idea of the concept of why am I seeing so many UFOs, sort of thing, you know? Even Tucker Carlson. Now, Tucker Carlson, I like Tucker Carlson. You know, he's quirky, makes me laugh. I think he's got ADHD, to be honest with you. You know, because he just explodes. But he's a quirky guy. I like his path of research because he got into this all excited. Oh, I'm really interested in UFOs. I want to know the answers. And as he got as he got into it, he started slowing down. He started realizing, oh, I don't know if I like this where it's going. This. But I'm going to have to go anyway. And it took him to a place where he now says, I don't need to do any more on UFOs.
Yeah.
You know, I'm done. I don't need any more. I know what it is. But he won't say what it is. He gets better what people give it. Well, tell us then what it is. And he'll kind of stick because he's being tactful. But what is interesting, that path he took was quite significant. The research, the length of time he was involved in that. And after conducting years of heavy research into the UFO phenomenon, as well as the occult connections which led in that direction, he claims he's been physically attacked. He claims he's waking up, not being able to breathe, his throat is restricted, he's panicking. Eventually, he does manage to, you know, he does ease off a few minutes later, tries to go back to sleep, but then suddenly he feels pain, severe pain, both sides of him.
I have a story to tell. Kind of resembles this, and it just happened a few days ago to me. I haven't decided if I'm going to talk about it yet, though.
Got marks, scratch marks, deep scratch marks. There's blood. His wife's looking at the blood on the bed. What else can that be? He's describing this and he's saying, what the hell is that? What is that? Why did this happen to him? And he's thinking, okay, there's something that's happened here that is not very nice, but maybe it's because of my involvement. I've decided to take my foot off the pedal now. You know, maybe it's something to do with that. But he's openly said this, and his wife has openly said that about having the experience.
I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I check and I couldn't breathe at all. My throat was closed. It wasn't like I was apnea or was strong as I couldn't breathe. So I get up, I stand in the doorway of our bedroom, and I'm like, wow, I'm dying. I could feel myself starting to gray out. And then I started walking in the backyard, and then it slowly came back. Like my throat kind of opened up a little bit. I was like really weirded out. I walk back in, and my wife wakes up. She goes, what is going on? I said, I don't know. I can't breathe. I feel better now. And all of a sudden, I had this horrible pain underneath my arms, like on the side of my chest, like bad. I thought I'd been like ripped with a knife or something. It just was very intense. So I go into the bathroom, I flip on the light, and I have claw marks on both sides, on right and left side on my ribs, and they're bleeding. And they're literally claw marks, 4 on either side. I put my fingers in them, don't fit my fingers, and I sleep on my side. So how could? And by the way, no one woke up, so I show my wife, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I have this like crazy intense desire to read the Bible. So I read the Bible, and I pass out in like 2 minutes, and I wake up, and the next morning I thought, "Man, did I have a wild dream?" And then I see blood in my sheets, and I go in the bathroom, and I have these bloody marks.
So, yeah, I can understand why he wants to sing that from the rooftops. I mean, remember talking to you when I did an investigation in Leicester? There was a guy that was living at a house with this woman, and him, his wife, him and his partner, and his friend did something very stupid one night walking through a graveyard. And I'm not going to say it out, but you can probably imagine it. But whatever it was brought back home, and some messed about with a Ouija board and some invocation using some ashes or this, that, and the other. But, well, yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to do that, because whatever descended upon that house and him was cruel, angry, vicious. He was attacking him. And the photographs of bruises appearing on him from being throttled at night. To the point where it got quite serious. And
He was attacking him regularly. His partner went out one day, came home, came home to find him on the floor, pretty much unconscious. He had markings on him of a hand. I'm sure I think I've shared with that video. It's a hand with looks to be talons, claws, but it's the position of the hand. It's from inside out. It's from inside. So what you're seeing on the image is the top of the hand.
Yeah, with the
Not
so he would have
if you got slapped, you get slapped with the bottom of the hand.
Yeah.
What you're seeing is the top of the hand. Now, that's not good. And of course, he got rushed to hospital, nearly lost his life, had a heart attack, and his organs were shutting down. He never recovered properly. Never recovered properly from that.
Not good. Not good
So
at all.
some people might say, yeah, these things can take a pound of flesh. You know, it's a
We're doing
terminology,
something.
but you know what? It's a sequence of events that took place, which is an undesirable type of stuff that happened. But the photographs say don't say it enough, to be honest, because when I was there and doing the investigation several times, I visited there. It was crazy, that environment. There were just conversations coming out the air, left, right, and center. You know,
that's that sign. That's one of the worst signs I've seen.
yeah, there were things around the house which were bursting into flames. You know, a dog bed, a shelf, mantle shelf above the fireplace.
Now imagine kicking your feet up and all of a sudden your freaking stool just poof into flames. That's insane. This is some poltergeist activity.
Picture frames, sides of chairs and tables just bursting into flames. And this going on in the bloody background in the air. I mean, to be honest, it's a bit of a different type of paranormal investigation you have to do in these matters. It's not a walk in the park. But we set up equipment in the back bedroom on CCTV camera. That equipment got thrown around. It's full video, filmed. And it was just not good. But, you know, when you talk about things, because I've done it in another investigation, which was in Audenshaw, Manchester. A young girl was having problems in her home. And I'm mentioning this because on her bed, a handprint appeared. But it's the other way around. It's the top of the hand is on the bed. So, and it's not like that, pressed down. It is literally come up from her bed.
That's a key point, Steve. Not to interrupt you, brother.
Yeah, no,
All right.
tell me.
Those watching this and want to suggest that these people are sleeping on their hands. No. They're not sleep. No. Number one. Number two, if that was if that was the case, I should say, then we wouldn't see the same handprint there for hours and hours.
It lasted for weeks. This was a dermalogical mark. This is not an impression mark.
There we go. And people need to know that. So go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right, buddy. I mean, of course, we look into these things and we think, yeah, you know what, people can go to sleep. They might have had too many beers, fall asleep with the hand underneath them. You might get a pressure mark there, but it'll soon disappear within hours. You know, at least most it'll be in hours. It was last for weeks. It didn't deter. It's the same as the bruises and the scratches. You know, a normal bruise, I've bruised myself when I've been lifting and moving stuff around or whacked my arm or whatever. You end up with a bit of a bruise. A few days or so, and it's seemingly gone. At most a week. But some of these, you know, these bruises and things are lasting for weeks and weeks. The scratch marks that last for weeks and weeks. It's beyond the normal. They're not healing like wounds. You know, it's as if like the skin has been manipulated as opposed to a wound in a sense. And you've talked about this before, haven't you? Now the skin is acting differently.
Yeah. There's something again paranormal about it. It's not just I bumped into the washing machine, you know, washing my clothes, or again, these are responding differently because the cause and origin is different than just somebody again marking themselves. You know, this the subdermal aspect of this is one of the more troubling, I guess, connections because you can't explain it.
No.
It makes no sense. And I've had cases where it starts out, for instance, I had one case where it was a mother and a daughter who were involved in a violent, malevolent haunting. And they, too, I have photographs of this where they felt a burning sensation. And then from underneath the skin to the surface were scratch marks to where they're touching them. They can't feel any, it's underneath. And so that's an aspect that people need to understand about this phenomenon is we're thinking, okay, it's limited to transcending technological advance. No, it's literally manipulating the physiology of the body at times. And we see it as something, okay, it's kind of explainable. Not really when you get down to the brass tacks of it. These manifestations are also supernatural. And that needs to be said. So I forgive you for
No,
interrupting.
no. I mean, you start to get into the aspects of biologics
Yeah.
and how it's affected through supernatural means. You know, yeah, there's probably some special terminology out there for that. You know, but you know, it starts to get really, really interesting because I realize. I mean, I've been on investigations, yes, and I've been going about my business, and I'm not in contact with anything. I've just got walking in the middle of a room or something. Suddenly, I feel a pain, and I look, and I've got a scratch, and it's welting, it's raised from the skin. It's as if someone just got a nail. I mean, not a nail of your finger, but an actual nail or screw or something, and just gone like that on you. That's how it hurts. It's painful, you know, and you can see blood drawing to the surface, but it welts and it's raised from the skin. I thought, yeah, but I haven't come in collision or anything. I'm not physically
Right.
anything.
Right.
It just happens. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm looking at my clothes. I'm like this, looking. There's not a mark on them. Surely if it was external, it'd have to go through my clothing. It's not external, I don't think. It comes from in outwards, dermal, inwards, outwards, you know? And I think it's this that we get confused about, you know?
It's huge. That's huge because when dealing with these skin anomalies, again, this is one of those artifacts within the field that's universal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen this in
This
demonology and
is
UFO
by far the most newest stuff that I've heard about poltergeist and NHI and anything like that.
abduction phenomena where some of these markings are from the inside out. And here's another avenue I don't think we've ever pursued in our conversations where people that have allegedly had out of body experiences will say they did A, B, and C to my astral body.
Mm.
And then when they get back into their physical body, we see those markings.
True.
Is it possible it's soul first, skin second? Is that what's actually being targeted by the phenomenon? And we're seeing it on the outside. Oh, okay. I don't know if that's the case, but of course it's an idea to entertain.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility of some form of separation here. When you talk about healing processes, are they healing the physical body or are they healing the mind to think that the body will be repaired? Because it always seems the predecessor is the non-physical, it's the mind over the body. It's like stigmata, you know, if you believe in it strongly enough, can appear on your body. We reference it as SISPM, self-induced spontaneous physical marking. We know it acts. It's real. It happens if you believe it enough. There are people under hypnosis who put money, 10 pence piece under their arms and stuff. It's told me it's hot and it blisters. It convinces them that it's a blister and it's not even hot. You know, so we know physical wounds can appear through belief, but at the same time, it also can do the opposite. You know, that something else can infiltrate and cause that to happen
Right.
to your body in a physical sense, but not from external, but from internal.
Right. Then what does that make faith? Which we've touched on that in times past. Do you believe this? Do you believe you will be healed of this disease? I do believe you. Okay, then you will be.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a connection there. I'm not sure what it
Yeah.
is yet, Steve.
Well,
But
do you know
that's
what? There were tests done on people who believed they were lucky. There was one guy won a national lottery 3 times. What's the probability of that? Is ridiculous. The probability of that is a lot higher than even the probability of winning, you know. And you think he's won it 3 times. What is it? I know I'm convinced myself I win it. I just know I'm going to win. It's this mindset of bending reality to a sense.
Yeah.
They did tests, these large columns, and it's a bit like, you know, when you go to a fair and you put a coin in a thing and it comes down the channel and it hits these other coins and stuff. Well, there were these balls coming down and they come down randomly. Now, every time they fall randomly, they fall in kind of a pyramid shape. It's just the way they always fall. Until you sit somebody in front of it who believes they're lucky and can change that. And it was only minute, but they did. A very small percentage. But it's still, that shouldn't happen until they do it again. And they made the ball falls in a slightly different direction. How? It's just randomly falling. How's it doing? Manipulation of reality, you see. And I think, I keep saying to people, there's lots of people out there saying, make your world, bend reality to you. And you can, but we live in times when it's really hard.
Hey, that's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing go out into nature, ground yourself, and eat as pure as possible, and your reality will
Hard
change.
for people to do that because they've,
Mhm.
with all the negativity and problems in the world today, it's hard for
Mhm.
people to climb out the hole they're in. And I totally get it, you know. But it is interesting that concepts are changing, the idea, and people are kind of waking up a little bit. So Jacques Vallée went on to state in his Forbidden Science Volume 6, my short-term advice is to study carefully the reactions to the disclosure campaign. So what he's
Yeah.
saying is study it carefully about the disclosure campaign and the Washington, well, as he refers to it, pseudo hearings. Yeah.
Yeah.
This will be a test of the media's attitude. Interestingly,
Pseudo hearings. Sort of like a kangaroo court, I guess.
it could be right. The UAP have seemingly gone nowhere in many of these many agree now. UAPs have gone nowhere. UAP hearings, a waste of time. What did
It
it
is.
come to? Nothing. You know, nothing came of it. And again, they keep running, oh, well, you know, maybe next time. No, it's just not working. It's not going to ever work. I mean, you've got Congresswoman Luna, who's trying to put arrangements together for people to meet each other and discuss this matter. She goes, the Pentagon officials go to this military base to see this, I don't know if he's a general or a colonel or whatever, blank refuses to cooperate. In fact, he walks out. In fact, he's not even at the meeting. You know, he's just, I can't tell you, I'm not going to. Hello, we're from the Pentagon.
Yeah.
You know, no. Again, just waste of time. Even when she was trying to push together meetings with David Grush and a couple of other people, it was like one phone call after another. Oh, I'm not well, I can't make it. And then the
Can't
next
do
one,
it.
I'm not well, I can't make it. Oh, I'm feeling a bit under the weather and can't come. They're all cancelled tonight. What is going on here? And now, what the talk is at the minute is that Congress was manipulated. Though even whistleblowers basically said, look, you know what? Themselves are being pressured, manipulated in regards to the limit of what they can talk about. In other words, stay within the parameters of the narrative
Yeah. Yeah.
that we've created and don't step beyond it. And this is why they feel pressurized to jump on a phone to some podcaster they don't know on the other side of the world, sweating and looking over the shoulders and saying, well, you know what, maybe saying some things that they wouldn't say in Congress. You know, maybe it'll come to that, you know. But the thing is,
Podcasts have really leveled the playing field for disclosure. That is for sure.
everybody's talking about it's been a total waste of time and it's been a delusion, you know, the whole hearings.
It is. And I am deeply interested in what Diana Posulka referred to when she said that the real whistleblowers, those who are actively briefing people in Congress, not the ones we're seeing,
No.
those who are behind the scenes, who have briefed Tucker, who have briefed these individuals secretly, they're still stuck in the demon versus angel
Yeah.
hypothesis, which is also, again, to beat a dead horse here, has informed the people that are coming forward saying, hey, by the way, it's all theater
Yeah.
behind underscores what they really believe about the phenomenon is it's ancient, it's primeval, it's been here since the dawn of written history, and we're still stuck in some ancient models. It may be more expansive, obviously, but in terms of source, altars, worship, ritual, that's the model.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by that because, again, they know a lot more than they're letting on, and whatever they know has informed their position, and their position is exactly what we're saying.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to be briefed. It's just open data, right, brother?
Yeah,
Open source data.
Well, you're absolutely right. Yeah, but I guess that they've got to steer this path. It's difficult, you know. Whatever their opinions are, they're going to consider what's the result of me giving these opinions. It's going to worry people. It might be scare some people. Some people might be shocked, or whatever, or just annoyed at the fact that we've been lied to for so many goddamn years. At the end of the day, they are sitting back. These are public people with their faces out there, and many of them don't want to sort of, I'll steer myself around a safe path, but I'll try and give breadcrumbs and clues along the way, rather than us where we just go in with bullets flying, but,
Baptism by fire.
yeah, but it is interesting that I can understand the safety protocols that they want to follow, yeah, I get it. It's interesting to point, 2011, a British astrophysicist, John Gribben, wrote in his book, Alone in the Universe, it was called, the Milky Way contains a few 100 billion stars, but almost certainly contains only one intelligent civilization. I was he referring to humans being intelligent? Yeah, I hope so. But many aren't these days, unfortunately. But and it was interesting also, President Barack Obama stated on national TV that he could not share any information about UFOs and what they consist of. And when presidents
All
have
that face he's
denied
making.
any knowledge of it, it's basically because they've been instructed to say that. So he says it's interesting how many people still believe what they are being told by the governments and how easily they can be
Switch the dang
led
photo.
by the
Jesus.
repetitions of lies. There's another guy, Dr. Robert what's his name? Zanjonk. Dr. Robert Zanjonk from the University of Michigan, social psychologist. He did some studies and he concluded repeated exposure to an individual and a stimulus is a sufficient condition for an enhancement of his attitude
Are we going to
towards it.
zoom
So
into his
basically, what he's
freaking
basically
eyeball?
saying there is, if you keep hearing the same story, you'll accept the story because of its popularity. And if its popularity is through media, which is what they're geared to do, then basically you can build a narrative on that information. So should you trust them? No, probably not. Should you believe them? No, probably not. Should you, what about the news and the media sources? Probably not. So it's probably not the best to get that information from the best places. Valet goes on to say, my view of the phenomena has changed. I think the human race is in a precarious position. I want to make the world a better place, but something is coming. He says something is coming. The group I'm involved with felt that an existential threat had been detected.
Oh, no.
What does that mean? Now, is he referring to an existential threat as being detected as those that don't want the information out?
Yeah.
Or is he referring to
The phenomenon.
the phenomenon? I don't know. It's a bit.
Hope it's the former.
It's like cloak and dagger, really. But either way, though, it's interesting because he's always been a bit of a clear writer when he says something is coming. So he's seen a change in something, And he references the Capella database. It's the largest UFO database in the world that Jacques Vallée had access to, over 240,000 cases. That's nearly 250,000 UFO cases. And that's far from all of them. It's only a smidgen, but 250,000 UFO cases. After looking through the reports and analyzing them, he states it was only through poring over the BASSS, the BASS database, which is linked to Bigelow, that it first dawned on me that this phenomena was in fact a threat. That's interesting, because it was all unknowns at the moment. He did say, obviously, not extraterrestrial, of course, but now he's going down that extraterrestrial threat, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to finish off because you mentioned Diana Pasulka, and I think you'll find this interesting. So Diana Pasulka's recently been doing some things on Reddit with Leslie Keane. And she's also been to the Sol Foundation that took place, the conference in Italy, a week or so ago. And she's recently stated that angels and demons framework of her research was being blocked by the Vatican.
Whoa, what the hell? Blocked by the Vatican? No. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut.
So she's coming out a little bit more. Also, she was banned from looking into unpublished records about the Knights Templars. Diana also states that many people see the phenomenon differently depending on their belief, from angels to aliens, from the Mariana apparitions to plasma beings. So therefore, you think about that, NHI can differ their perception to a group of people. They vary and mold themselves to their beliefs. Only NHI with multiple faces, one NHI, just one, with multiple faces designed to present itself to them independently. So it can deal with a group like this. And and what's being delivered to them is it gets inside you and it's looking through your nuts and bolts of your consciousness and going,
Has anyone seen it? Welcome to Derry. Because oh boy.
oh well, no, you don't really believe that, so I won't be that. I'll be this. And you'll see me as that. And then the next person, it's going into their consciousness and going, let me look at yours now. Oh, you believe in this, do you? Right, I'll be that. And it's doing it to a group of people simultaneously as it's being witnessed. Wow.
Yes. And it's adapting its appearance to the neurology, even to the point that it realizes, okay, that's what you believe. Going through the archive. What do you believe in the most? That is the appearance I'm going to take on. And then not just that, but in the next appearance to that experiencer, it knows what they believe in. Why? Because it's a predictable manifestation. You believed in it before. I'm not going to change the program now. Why fix what is not broken? And that, everyone, is the learning matrix we often refer to. It's the mechanism where I've already known what you believe in. I'm not going to change it up the next time. I'm going to be that. And so this is why I and others, including you, Steve, I believe, we're not looking for form anymore. We're looking for function. That's what we're looking for.
How does this motherfudger function? We need to know.
Mechanics behind it, the mechanisms, because we know now it can take on any archetype we believe in.
Yeah.
And that's disturbing aspect.
You're doing exactly the same thing when I got into this years ago with paranormal mechanics. There literally is the mechanism. It's, you know what, I don't want to see the result. I want to know how it was created.
Yes.
How did it get to that? What's being used?
I've had people here lately, just say it's this, Nathaniel. Or Steve, just give it this moniker, this placeholder. And that's all I ask. That's all. And then by naming it that's all I need to know. And that's not true. And I had a show the other day and I likened it to somebody saying, Nathaniel, just call it a Ferrari. And that's all we need to know. It's like, no, there's a gas tank in there, there's horsepower, there's all kinds, right, of things that go into making it a Ferrari. Just naming something does not give us any access or insight to
What is that quote from The Wizard of Oz?
its pathology, and even more, it doesn't give us insight.
Don't look what's behind the curtain, something like that.
And how to push the beasts back into the darkness. That's why the iron revelation is so meaningful. Because if we just treated this research as don't touch, don't research, don't investigate, name it and claim it, we would have never came to that conclusion. Thereby, we would have never, like you, Steve, have been able to give experiencers a weapon against, right, the phenomenon. So this research, as expensive as it is, and as sometimes controversial, it's germane to moving the needle and evolving in the field. That's my rant.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, buddy. You're absolutely right. You're working in the mechanism of mechanics exactly the same I do, from the paranormal side to the NHI side. You know, everything. It's like looking at a jigsaw puzzle and seeing the big image, but then but we don't see that. We see the little jigsaw pieces that make the image. That's what we want to get at. That's how we're trying to show people. You know, it's those little
I want to see what makes the jigsaw pieces, baby.
pieces that makes the big picture that we're interested in. Otherwise, we're just going to keep staring at the picture all the time. You know, I'm not actually getting anywhere. But that debate still continues. Spiritual or physical comes into play. Such as ETs walking through walls and then physically manipulating the environment or the witnesses, or apparitions walking through a door into your bedroom and interacting with you physically. It doesn't matter if this is in the paranormal. If you want to put them into these boxes, supernatural, paranormal, metaphysical, spiritual, whatever, it is all the mechanism of what is referred to as the dualistic hypothesis, that it is both metaphysical in option, both dualistic hypothesis. And it's been around for a bit, to be honest with you, but it's not spoken much about, to be honest. You know, that it represents the metaphysical aspects of the reality. It combines of two things in one. Remote viewers have described NHIs to exist within the realms of the spiritual and the physical. And that is almost impossible, we mentioned this before, to remote view them, as they quickly become aware of them being viewed through this practice that can latch on and follow the remote viewer back and affect their physical world, often interpreted as some form of deterrent from remote viewing them in the first place.
So is that like some kind of poltergeist activity at their house? That's what I would assume.
So in other words, if you're a remote viewer and you want to remote view NHI and UFOs, it comes with the warning tag. Beware. It latches on. It comes back with you. You know, be careful, because they are where they are being watched. You know, so again, can't really get around them, buddy. You know, but it is interesting now. So many people now. I mean, I've listened about maybe 5 or 6 in this time, just on this one video, coming forward and saying, giving little pieces of information to what we're talking about. But more and more people are coming forward, and I think over time, more and more might come forward and start giving clues. How many actually want to step up? Well, it's not easy to step up and say it's all demonic, it's all this, it's all that. You know, because that's a belief system and you're latching onto one archetype, you know. But then the subject of religion has become so sensitive, turning around to people and say, God would never do a bad thing. God would never scorn. God would never do such a thing. It is a belief that God wouldn't. But is there really any clues to any gods on the planet that didn't do it? No. They all did it according to information and, you know, things that have been left in the past to describe what deities did. They all interacted in certain ways, very humanistic behavior, because they were delivering to us what we would expect, a humanistic behavior, because that's how they've got to identify themselves. You know, I've got to show them that I'm very humanistic so I can be annoyed and I can be happy with them, you know, so I can be pleased and I can scorn, you know, and it's like somebody in charge that you pay homage to, but also at the same time worry about the consequences if you don't pay homage to, you know, and that is the problem. And that's the way systems work, and it's the way law works and societies work now. We fear it from doing something wrong because of the consequences. It's just the way we've learned society. So it's back then, in those days, early ancient days with deities, yeah, absolutely, buddy. But like I say, it's intriguing. Lots and lots of other things
Are we
are coming
about
out.
done?
I'm trying to keep up with it all. I'm like, what's that person just said? Hang on a sec, write that down. What's that person just said? Bloody hell, I never heard him say that before. Interesting times, buddy. But like I say, when we're getting there, would you want to get people to focus on the parts of the engine, like you said? Not the Ferrari, not the car, parts of the engine. Get them to start looking in this direction, focusing on, because then they'll start seeing the meanings, the patterns, the mechanism. And that's what we want to do, isn't it, at the end of the day?
You're right. And here's the primary reason I'm doing that, and I know you are as well, is because when people say, okay, here's what the data says, and they say, okay, altars, spirit, translucent manifestation, that's all extraterrestrial. It's like, no, the engine, none of that adds up. And so they just name it without actually looking inside the engine and saying, okay, if that is A, B, and C, the data doesn't support it.
No.
And so that's why we as researchers are saying, okay, don't come to the conclusion, go to the data and let that inform your conclusion. And I think that's the best way to do research, in my opinion. It's the most
It is.
honest.
It
That's all
is,
we're
mate.
doing.
No more theories. We're tired of theories. We need facts. And to do that, you've got to be looking in a different direction.
You
Right.
done?
Well, thanks again, buddy,
Wrapping
for
this
coming on.
up.
And it's been a good one, sharing. And like I say, busy times. And I know you've been busy. You're all over the place at the moment.
Yeah,
Everybody's,
I've had to
you know.
pace my interviews out, man. So
All right, all right. They're not talking about anything else important. I am gonna go ahead and back out of here. It was